Hey everybody, welcome to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Mike Catalano with you today. Remember to subscribe, like, comment on this channel, Buffalo Plus. We've been thrilled with the response so far. You'll see the button down in the corner. Just click on subscribe if you'd like to get videos constantly during the season, during the off season, on your Buffalo Bills as they get set for what they hope is a huge 2021 into 2022. Mike Catalano with you. Dan and Jenna will be with me later. And certainly most of the time you can see all of their videos right here on the Buffalo Plus channel. Now we're heading into the preseason, and this is a time for Bills fans when it used to mean, certainly not everything, but there were so many decisions to be made on this roster. That's not the case anymore. This is a really good football team with a chance to do great things. The moves they are going to make, the positions they are looking at, are for nuanced things is the way I look at it. Maybe a little more playing time when the season begins. Maybe a player stays and another player goes, but those spots I think are kind of limited on this team. I'm not saying it was a foregone conclusion, but of the 53-man regular roster, I told you before, I think Bean and McDermott came into camp knowing pretty well the majority of the players that were going to be there. Doesn't mean players can't earn time, and that really doesn't begin tonight, but it continues tonight when we get a first chance. So I got 5 players I want to keep an eye on tonight. I think you should be keeping an eye on tonight to see how they do, either in a new situation or with an opportunity to play. And let's start with the quarterback. I mean, it was a given that Josh Allen wasn't going to play. I've made it clear here on TV, on Twitter, everywhere that I've spoken, I wouldn't play Josh Allen in this preseason at all. What are you going to see out of him? That he can throw the ball, that he can make plays with his legs, that he can move around? Absolutely. Does he need a little bit of rust knocked off? Sure. You want to throw him out there for a couple series next week? Go ahead, get him off the field. Without Deion Dawkins on the field, I'm a little bit worried about throwing my superstar quarterback out there. I'll take my chances that he'll be ready for week 1. But that being said, the first player I want to watch tonight is Mitchell Trubisky. Got a chance to talk to him this week. Very interesting to hear his comments. I'll get more to that in a minute. But Trubisky's going into a new setting, a new offense, and a new mindset. He's not competing for that number 1 job. He knows his role with this team. His role with this team is to get better and to be ready if they need him, if something were to happen with Josh Allen. That's a very different mindset than being the face of the franchise, the number 2 overall pick, and having to go out and prove, even in preseason games, that you're worthy of that. What happened to Mitch in Chicago? You know, I did a story this week, and you can see the full interview with Mitchell Trubisky here on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel about the differences between the two. And it's kind of funny. You know, Josh was drafted 7th the year before Mitch was taken 2nd. Josh has started 43 regular season games. Mitchell Trubisky has started 50. Josh has 28 regular season wins. Mitchell Trubisky has 29. Josh got to the playoffs twice. Mitch got to the playoffs twice. So what's the difference? The difference is Trubisky never really took that step. He just didn't. And I can see why the people in Chicago decided it was time to move on. You know, they had made changes there, changes in the organization, changes in the coaching staff, changes in philosophy. You bring in Nick Foles. Of course, that didn't work too well. And now they've had a reboot there. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. But I want to see how he does tonight. I mean, he's not going to have the full load of starters, obviously. That's really what you want to see. You want to see how he can do with, you know, Diggs and Beasley and everybody else playing. But let's say this. However Mitchell Trubisky can play, if he's playing with the second string players on this offense, I'm going to say when he gets out on the field, if it has to be with Diggs and Beasley, he'll be just fine. So I think he's an upgrade on Matt Barkley. I think he's going to do okay. I'm not sure about tonight. I'm not sure what they're going to have him do, but I think he needs those snaps. He needs being part of this offense and to get through it. So I think they're going to bring him out, and I think they're going to let him throw the ball a little bit. I think they're going to try to see what they have in Trubisky. What I wanted to bring up was his news conference, and, you know, I think he kept it pretty close to the vest. He had plenty of opportunities. I asked a lot of questions. Sal Majorana from the Democrat and Chronicle did, you know, about the difference between Chicago and Buffalo. And he really never took a shot at Chicago, in my opinion. You know, he did say things about how much happier he is in Buffalo now. I mean, there's a combination of things. I mean, he failed as a franchise quarterback in Chicago. Was he the worst guy in the league? No. but he wasn't good enough for them to give him the 5th year and sign him to a big contract. So look at the difference between he and Josh. Josh goes on to the mega deal, and Mitch is here as a backup on a low number, $1 million a year. So it's different. But I didn't think he took shots. I really didn't. And he talked about being in an organization that can coach you up, thinks about players as people. Like, he didn't have the greatest experience that way in Chicago. You want to take that as a shot? It's funny. I was listening to an ESPN radio show, and 2 of the reporters had Chicago backgrounds, had either been there, covered teams there, whatever. And they were all in on Mitch, saying that he's taking shots at Chicago, and who's he to say that? He failed in there. I guess because I was actually at the news conference and actually heard his answers and saw the way he responded when I guess he could have taken shots, I felt totally differently. But it does remind you, it was kind of fascinating. I'm in my car and I'm listening. I'm thinking, wow, I was right there. And I have no dog in the fight in this. I'm covering Mitch. He's a player on the Bills. He was in Chicago. And I thought, wow, he handled himself really well. From a Chicago perspective, he didn't own up to his mistakes. Okay, whatever you want to say, they've moved on. They've got Justin Fields, who looks like he's going to certainly be their starter, but that's for them. For the Bills, it's Mitchell Trubisky. Let's see how he can do taking the field tonight, and we'll see how much he runs in that offense. Now, one of the reasons why I didn't want Josh playing at all is Deion Dawkins isn't ready to play yet. On the plus side, he's activated from that COVID list. No political speech here. COVID is real, okay? He was out for a few weeks, and he's not healthy yet, 100%. He doesn't have his wind back. He wasn't exercising. At some point, we'll talk to Deion, who's an awesome guy, and he'll be honest with us. But he does not seem like he's 100% yet, which is understandable. But they're going to get him ramped up and back out onto the field. So it's Spencer Brown, and he's been playing that left tackle spot. And he's a giant. We all know that. He's 6'8". He stands out amongst these awesome athletes. He stands out. And talking to both offensive linemen and defensive linemen, they like what they've seen out of this kid. Now, here's the thing. He didn't play last year. His team is Northern Iowa. They moved their schedule to the spring. So obviously he was getting ready for the draft and moved on to the draft, got picked by the Bills. And here he is getting starter reps. And my assumption is he'll start tonight. And I want to see how he does. I mean, he was joking that he doesn't even remember his pregame routine. It's been a couple of years. I say joking because maybe it'll be a little different in the NFL. But he's gotten compliments from both offensive and defensive linemen, as I said. I think they see him as a guy who's prepared, who has a work ethic, who will ask questions. All that stuff is great. All that stuff is encouraging. It's what you want to see. We are in the positive time, right? It's training camp. It's now preseason. If a guy shows pretty well, everybody's pretty excited about it. But what do we really want to see? We want to see him on the field against a defense. And I think starters for the Lions are going to play. So let's see how he does. Let's see if he can protect on that left side. How much faith do we have in Spencer Brown actually playing now, this year? Again, I expect Deion to be back, but it's hard to make those assumptions until we actually see him really working out with the team. So I think Spencer Brown is a guy I want to see tonight. He's not a stat guy. It's not the guy you're going to be sitting there going, he did this and it's marked down. I mean, you just watch and you see if Trubisky has constantly got to take off or there's no running lanes on that left side where the tackle is. So interesting guy to watch tonight in Detroit against the Lions. Speaking of tall guys on the other side, who doesn't want to see Greg Rousseau play? He's another giant, the other power forward on this team, and shown flashes at camp. Again, it's training camp. It is in created competition situations. These are regular games now for them. I mean, this is competition against the Lions. Again, likely they're starters. I think Rousseau's going to start. I think he's going to play. That would, again, be my guess based on, I don't think you're throwing, Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison out in a preseason game. So my guess is Rousseau starts. And we've really liked what we've seen. He's got that flash ability. He's got that size. I watched him in the scrimmage, and it was Trubisky throwing. I take that back. Was it Trubisky or Fromm? It wasn't Josh. That's all I will say. And here he comes, 6'8", with his hands up. And I'm thinking to myself, imagine that for a quarterback. I mean, that alone, those hands come up. in that pass rush. That's something to see. He didn't play last year. We know he opted out due to COVID. Again, this guy's got to get on the field. So let's see how he looks tonight. And let's see how they work. I was watching the Philly-Pittsburgh game. You guys know I follow the Eagles, and I'm watching the game. And in the second half, a lot of their defensive linemen were playing, and they weren't subbing out. And it was, Ross Tucker was doing the game. He does the Eagles broadcast, and he was saying, hey, in a regular situation, I think they'd be subbing out, but maybe they just want to see, how do these guys do? Early season, haven't played a game, in the heat. Let's see how they fight through it. Let's see how they play. Now, again, I know this game is indoors. I know it's at the Dome, but it's still a football game. It's still going up against an offense. Maybe even an offense, that moves the pace a little bit. We'll see what Detroit does. But if a team starts moving the ball and those linemen are out there, let's see how Rousseau does, getting himself back lined up. What happens to the pass rush if he stays on the field? Those are things I want to see. And if we're going to talk Rousseau, we have to talk about the guy who's got the name, Boogie Basham, right? Boogie Basham's going to be out there. And, again, different type of player, physically certainly different, more of a power guy, but the ability to get pressure, get it up the middle. We'll see how much they move him around on the defensive line. I know it's a preseason game, so we're not talking about game planning here, but I think they're going to want to see where they can put Boogie on this defense and get something out of him in terms of, where he can be the most effective. In my opinion, just watching them at camp, I think the Bills believe these two guys will be in the rotation during the regular season on this defense. Now, again, you say, well, they were both drafted, 1-2 in this year's draft. Yes, I get that. But, they do have depth on this D-line. And there's going to be some big decisions to make. There's only so many spots. There's only so many guys you can keep. They brought in F.A. Obata. He's a guy who had more sacks than any Bills defensive lineman in Carolina last year. Got Harrison Phillips, hopefully back 100% now. You got Starr back on the inside, with Ed Oliver. And like I said, you've got Addison. You've got Jerry Hughes. They got some guys now. They're going to expect to see something out of this line. And I think both of the rookies will get those chances. I forgot about AJ and Epinesa. I didn't really forget about him. He didn't have a preseason last year. And just think about that right now as I talk about, Basham and Rousseau. Epinesa went out there, I think he was inactive right the first game. He didn't have a preseason. Think about how valuable these snaps are to these guys. And AJ didn't have that last year. So, again, I'll throw him in the mix and say, let's see what he can do, even though he's obviously already had regular season time. Now I'm going to go back to the offense because I know you love this guy. There's two guys I want to see on the offense. We know about a lot of the wide receivers. We know about, Hodgins getting his chance. He didn't have a preseason. He got hurt. But I'm talking about running backs. Two different guys. You love Antonio Williams. By the way, on this channel, Dan Fates did a great story on Antonio Williams. Bright guy, hardworking. Dan calls him, rightfully so, the busiest guy on the Bills. The things outside of football that he has going. And I think you'll find that interesting. Doesn't mean this guy doesn't want to play football. He's young, he's enthusiastic, and he's smart. So he's realizing when I spend my time not playing and training, I'm going to do something else. And it's crazy. We're talking gaming and NASCAR and NFL football. So there's his. But let's see what he does. He didn't get a preseason last year. He got cut. This is how he got started in these other businesses. Then he got back on the team, practice squad, activated, tears up against the Dolphins. And you guys love him, and you want to see more of him. And you were asking us if he should play in the playoffs. Well, let's see how he does now with a few more snaps. And the other guy's the veteran. Now, I don't know what they're going to do with Matt Breida. He's been around. I just love the speed. I love that element that this offense doesn't have. And maybe it's just a few plays. Maybe it's to see how they can get him on the outside and make plays in this offense. And maybe we won't see it a lot tonight, but I'm very interested in seeing Breida. I think we know what Moss and Singletary do. While it's good, I think we kind of know. We've seen it. And, Moss looks healthy coming back from last year. So let's see what these other guys do. I know there's plenty of other players. I know there's other guys you want to watch. What I stress to you as someone who was on the sidelines for 20 years on the Bills television network during the preseason games, the coaches will talk about this a lot too. This is about individuals. NFL football is about the team. The preseason is about individuals. The score doesn't matter, right? It really doesn't. You know, they say we try to win. Yes. They'd rather be healthy and look good than worry about winning and losing in these games. But it's about individual guys with their opportunity. Do they make a play, right? So that's what we want to see out of this. So watch for the individual guys as best you can when you're watching the game on television. And I know you're going to overreact. We all do. I even asked that on Twitter. Who's the guy you know you're going to overreact to? Maybe it's our buddy Christian Wade who takes one to the house again. I mean, who knows? But these games, don't get caught up in the fact that it's not great football and it's not regular football. Look for certain things. And those are 5 guys I think I'm going to be looking for tonight. And we'll be commenting on Twitter during the game. We'll have our post-game reaction too. And you know you can always trust us for content here on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. So check it out tonight. Again, Dan and Jenna will be with me. We'll have plenty of content on the Bills. And we thank all of our subscribers. Again, remember to subscribe, to like, and we love the comments. We respond to the comments, nearly all of them, all the time. So make sure you do that. For our team, Dan and Jenna, I'm Mike Catalana. Thanks for watching here on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel.